The sun scorched the sand in blistering waves as soldiers lined up across the training field at Sierra Ridge Base. The air was thick with grit, sweat, and testosterone, the kind of environment where egos grew faster than discipline. Today was Weapons Validation Day, a major event, and in the middle of the formation stood a new face, a woman in desert fatigues, hands behind her back, posture firm. Lieutenant Commander Alyssa Kane. She had just transferred in from an unnamed naval special warfare program, and rumors spread fast. Did you hear? She says she's a SEAL. Impossible. They don't put SEALs here. She's tiny, man, no way. I bet she's some admin officer who thinks she's tough. Then there was Staff Sergeant Grant Mercer. Loud, arrogant, known for pushing people around, and he hated her instantly. The moment he saw her standing in formation, he muttered loudly, "Look at this, a girl trying to play soldier." A few soldiers chuckled, others looked uneasy. Alyssa didn't react, not to the mocking, not to the stares, not to the disbelief. She'd heard worse in training, in deployment, in enemy territory. Compared to that, this was noise, but Mercer wanted more. He stepped forward aggressively, boots crunching in the sand. "So, Commander," he said, putting exaggerated emphasis on the rank, "you say you're a Navy SEAL?" Alyssa answered calmly, "I don't say anything. My record speaks for itself." "Oh," one soldier whispered. "She got him." Another grinned. Mercer raised his eyebrows. "Your record, Princess? I've been in the Army for 14 years, and I've never seen someone looking like you in a special operations unit." Alyssa gave no reaction. Mercer stepped close, too close, pointing a finger at her chest. "Tell you what, you want us to believe you're a SEAL?" She stared at him, unblinking. "Prove it." A hush fell across the field. Mercer smirked and signaled two soldiers, "Take her weapon." "What?" Corporal Diaz muttered. "But that's take her weapon," Mercer repeated sharply. The corporals hesitated, then stepped forward and took the rifle from Alyssa's shoulder. Mercer held it up like a trophy. No gun, no excuses, no special treatment. He turned to the others. "All right, boys, let's see this SEAL take down 4 armed men without a weapon." A few soldiers protested. "Come on, Sarge, this isn't right. That's not regulation. This is harassment." But Mercer barked, "Silence." He pointed his rifle at Alyssa. "Show us what you got." Alyssa exhaled slowly. She wasn't afraid. She was calculating. 4 soldiers stepped forward, weapons raised in a controlled posture, fake ammunition, but still dangerous. Mercer grinned like a wolf. "You fall, you crawl back to whatever admin desk you came from." Alyssa tilted her head slightly, then spoke with a calmness that unsettled everyone. "You sure you want to do this?" Laughter erupted. "Oh, she's cocky. This is gonna be good. Sarge is gonna break her." Mercer raised his rifle. "Begin." Everything exploded. The first soldier disarmed in one move. The first man charged toward her. Alyssa stepped aside, grabbed his wrist, twisted, and snapped his rifle clean out of his hands. He fell face first into the sand with a grunt. The entire line of soldiers gasped. Holy, she didn't even hit him. "What was that?" Alyssa tossed the rifle behind her without looking. "One," she said calmly. The second soldier neutralized instantly. The second man fired dummy rounds at her chest. Alyssa ducked, rolled forward, swept his legs, grabbed his vest, and flipped him onto his back in one smooth arc. He hit the ground with a thud. "Two." Mercer's smile faltered. The third soldier outclassed completely. The third soldier was bigger, stronger, heavily built. He rushed her. Alyssa pivoted, drove her elbow into his sternum, then used his own momentum to throw him over her shoulder. He landed hard, coughing. "Three." The soldiers watching were now fully silent. Mercer's jaw clenched. The fourth soldier taken down. While Mercer watched, the fourth soldier hesitated. Alyssa didn't. She sprinted toward him, kicked the rifle from his hands, and pinned him face down in the sand before he even lifted an arm. She leaned near his ear. "Four." Then she stood, dusting off her gloves. 40 men stared like they'd just seen a ghost walk through bullets. Even the wind went silent. Alyssa walked over to Mercer, voice steady. "You wanted proof." Mercer stood frozen. She stepped closer. "Now you have it." Mercer grit his teeth, trying to salvage his ego. "You just got lucky." Alyssa cut him off. "No, they're trained soldiers. You underestimated them and me." A murmur passed through the crowd. Alyssa continued, firm and professional. "Your leadership is built on intimidation, not skill." Mercer frowned. "You calling me incompetent?" Alyssa didn't blink. "I'm calling you dangerous." A few soldiers looked at each other, wide-eyed. Mercer trembled with anger. "Nobody talks to me like that." "Maybe that's why your unit has the lowest pass rate in the division," Alyssa replied. The soldiers stiffened. Everyone knew it was true, but no one dared say it out loud. Mercer's face went red. "You're done here," he growled. "I'm putting you on report." Alyssa looked around at the soldiers, then back at him. "No, you're done." Mercer blinked. "What?" Alyssa pulled out a folded document from her chest pocket and held it up. "Orders from the Department of Defense." She unfolded it. "Effective today, I'm the new advanced combat instructor for this base." You could hear a pin drop. Mercer stepped back. "You can't. I outrank you. I outtrain you. And starting now," she looked him dead in the eyes, "we'll rebuild this unit into something actually worthy of this uniform." A cheer erupted behind them. A few soldiers pumped fists, others exchanged proud looks. Some looked relieved, like years of pressure had dropped off their shoulders. Mercer looked shaken, broken, his ego collapsing like sand. Alyssa stepped closer. Voice cold and controlled, you had your chance to lead, now step aside. Mercer stared at her, then at the soldiers who no longer respected him. No one moved to support him, no one even looked at him. Finally, he stepped backward, turned, and walked away. Not a single soldier followed. Alyssa watched him go, then turned to the platoon. You want to train? She asked. They stood straighter than ever. Yes, ma'am. You want to become elite? Yes, ma'am. Then fall in, she ordered. We start over today. The soldiers snapped into formation instantly, and for the first time in years, they felt hope. The training field trembled under the echo of marching boots as the soldiers formed a clean line behind Lieutenant Commander Alyssa Kane. The same men who doubted her hours ago now followed her with the discipline of a unit that had finally tasted real leadership. Alyssa stood at the front, her posture strong, flawless, unshakable. Before we begin advanced drills, she said, I need one thing from every soldier here. Her gaze swept across the formation. Respect, not for me, for the uniform you wear. Every soldier straightened. Alyssa continued, because if you don't respect each other, you'll never survive out there. A quiet ripple of shame and pride mixed through the men. For the first time, they weren't looking at her as a girl. They were looking at her as a warrior, a leader, a SEAL. Mercer's return with rage, but the moment of clarity was broken by the sound of furious footsteps crunching through the sand. Staff Sergeant Grant Mercer. His face was bright red, his chest puffed, and his voice exploded across the field like a grenade. This isn't over, the soldiers tensed. Alyssa didn't even turn. Mercer stormed toward her, barking. You embarrassed me in front of MY men. You think you can just walk in and take over. You're making a mistake trying to replace me. Alyssa finally turned her head slightly. You replaced yourself, Sergeant. Gasps rippled across the line again. Mercer stepped closer and jabbed a finger at her. You're nothing but a show pony. I bet you can't even shoot without your precious SEAL gear. A deep rumble shook the ground before he finished. An explosion, far off but strong. The sand vibrated beneath their boots. Every soldier instinctively dropped into alert stance. Alyssa's face sharpened. In an instant, that wasn't training ordnance, she said. Another blast echoed, closer this time. Mercer swallowed nervously. Was that? A voice burst through a radio. Unexploded drone ordnance malfunction near range 4, multiple injuries, request immediate response. The soldiers froze. Mercer looked terrified. Alyssa didn't waste a second. You. She pointed at Ramirez. You're with me. Yes, ma'am. You Holt, get med kits and safety stretchers. Yes, ma'am. Everyone else core defensive perimeter. The unit snapped into motion like she'd trained them for years. Mercer stood frozen. Alyssa marched straight past him. Move, Sergeant, or get out of my way. Her command sliced through him like a blade. For a moment he hesitated, then he followed, but not proudly. Fear dragged him along. The accident site when they reached range 4, smoke spiraled into the sky. A damaged drone launcher smoldered in flames. 3 soldiers were on the ground, 2 conscious, 1 barely moving. Alyssa dropped to her knees beside the most injured one, a young private shaking uncontrollably. Private, stay with me, she said, gripping his shoulder. What happened? The drone misfired, he gasped. Something exploded. Alyssa checked his vitals, elevated, weak, unstable. She cut open the leg of his uniform. The sight was alarming, shrapnel embedded deep, bleeding fast. Ramirez, she barked, applied direct pressure. Yes, ma'am. She guided Ramirez's hands to the right artery. Higher, harder, you need to stop the bleed. Holt arrived, tossing supplies beside her. Alyssa worked fast, faster than any medic on base. Private, she said gently, I need you to stay awake. His eyes fluttered. Please don't let me die. You won't, she said firmly. Not while I'm here. Mercer stood a few feet away, frozen in shock as she saved the soldier's life. With clinical precision, one of the other injured men struggled to sit up. Mercer rushed toward him, but the man weakly pushed him away. And no, don't touch me, he croaked. Get the commander. Mercer froze. The words hit him harder than any punch. The SEAL within Alyssa initiated field tourniquet with perfect speed, stabilized the private, then turned to the others. You two, can you stand? One nodded. The other shook his head. Alyssa lifted the injured man onto her shoulder like he weighed nothing. Mercer stared in disbelief. That's impossible, he muttered. He's 190 pounds. Alyssa carried him effortlessly. That's what SEAL training does, Ramirez whispered under his breath. Alyssa pointed at Mercer. You help Holt carry the 3rd soldier? Mercer snapped out of his trance. Why, yes, ma'am. They carried the wounded back as medevac trucks rushed in. The injured soldiers were loaded and taken to the medical building. As soon as the chaos settled, the base commander arrived, Colonel Harris, strict but fair. What happened? Harris demanded. Before Mercer could speak, an injured private pointed from the stretcher. H her, he said weakly. Commander Kane saved us. Another soldier nodded. She took control, stopped the bleeding, carried Jensen all the way. Colonel Harris looked at Alyssa with respect. You prevented 3 deaths today, Lieutenant Commander. Alyssa simply nodded. Just doing my job, sir. Ramirez whispered proudly. That's a SEAL talking. Harris turned toward Mercer. And where were you, Sergeant? Mercer swallowed. I was. Alyssa interjected before he could dig himself deeper. He followed my command, sir. Mercer's eyes widened in shock. She saved his job. Harris nodded slowly. Good, but we'll be reviewing all field protocols. Alyssa saluted. Harris left, taking the injured soldiers with him. The rest of the unit gathered around. Alyssa standing taller than ever, the breakdown of a bully when the crowd dispersed. Mercer approached her slowly. Not aggressive, not arrogant, humbled. Commander, he said quietly. Why did you cover for me? Alyssa met his eyes. For the same reason I protect every soldier, she said, even the ones who disrespect me. Mercer inhaled sharply. He looked down. I was wrong, he admitted, voice cracking. All day, every word, I judged you before I even knew you. Alyssa said nothing. Mercer continued. You train like a SEAL, you fight like a SEAL, you saved my men like a SEAL. I was jealous and scared and stupid. Alyssa crossed her arms. Then fix it, Mercer swallowed. I want to if you'll train me. A stunned silence lingered between them. Then Alyssa nodded once. Be on the field at 500 before the sun rises. Mercer's shoulders lifted. Yes, ma'am. He saluted her for the first time with genuine respect. Alyssa returned it. He walked away, not broken, but rebuilt. The final speech, the entire platoon gathered around her as the sun dipped behind the desert horizon. Alyssa stood before them, hands behind her back. Today, she said, was a lesson. They listened like her words were oxygen. Strength isn't how loud you shout, it's how well you serve. They nodded. Leadership isn't forcing fear, it's protecting your people. Yes, ma'am, and respect isn't owed, it's earned. Every soldier stood tall. Alyssa took a slow breath. You have the potential to be an elite unit, but only if you train with humility, discipline, and honor. She paused. Do you want to be that unit? Their voices thundered. Yes, ma'am. Then starting tomorrow, she said with the faintest smile, we train like warriors. The men cheered. For her, for themselves, for the future of their unit. Alyssa Kane, Navy SEAL instructor, turned and walked off the field, the soldiers' respect following her like a shadow carved in the sand.